Of course, the Devolution Conference, the 5th annual Devolution Conference, is on its second day today. It continues up until Friday, and that's the biggest discussion even on the dailies, even on Twitter. It's the top trending hashtag Devolution Conference 2018. On the front page of the Daily Nation, they ask what Kenyans think of their governors. While most are happy with improved access to services, especially healthcare, they fear devolution could come a cropper unless nepotism, corruption and bloated wage bill are decisively tackled. The stories continue on page 3, 4, 5. Many headlines, including Kenyans listing gains and pains of devolution 5 years later. There's one where Governor Oparanya is pleading with government authorities to allow Olomide to perform in Kakamega. Security beefed up at Governor's Conference. Brisk business for residents of counties. And this is one very interesting thing. And Kakamega County and the counties neighboring Kakamega are experiencing a boom in the hospitality business. Quite a number. All the hotels are fully booked. People are sleeping as far as Eldoret and Kisumu just to attend that conference. And people have now in Kakamega have opted now to leave their homes and earn some money from it. That's interesting because now that's how people get entrepreneurial. But do you think that probably some of these things, before you host Devolution Conference, you should think about the capacity to actually host people, because people need to sleep as well?
We were actually looking at the supplementary budget for Ministry of Devolution, that is basically in charge of supervising counties. And one of the things that we were questioning was the budget that the ministry had placed to facilitate Devolution Conference, normally an annual budget. And initially some of us were cagey about why we should be able to fund, the ministry should fund this conference. But looking at what I saw in Kisumu over the weekend, where these conferences have actually exposed the investment opportunities that we really need to focus on in the regions. I think what I've seen in Kisumu is that since 2 days ago, you cannot be able to get accommodation in Kisumu. And
that's Kisumu. And that's almost 50 kilometers away from where the conference is taking place.
And I was in Kisumu yesterday, on Saturday, and even my driver did not get a place to sleep. My driver slept in the car, you know. So this is very serious, and I think for the investors or people looking for investment opportunities, it is an opportunity for us to invest in this sector, the hospitality sector. Yeah, but I think what I can say as far as devolution is concerned is that one, there's a lot that has been achieved, as most of the Kenyans have pointed out. So much has been achieved, but we also need to think broader about where devolution is going, and especially in line of self-sufficiency, self-reliance. Most counties actually rely on national government 100%. And you know, that was not what was intended. What was intended is that after some time, counties begin to generate their own revenues. So that in the end, they do not rely completely on the national government. If you look at most of the counties, they have not been able to make headway in that direction. And I think that's one challenge that we need to think of. The other one is corruption, which I also agree. Corruption is imminent and prominent in counties. And we do not see serious efforts on the part of prosecutions and EACC to tackle corruption, because you see governors living opulent lifestyles, governors who are not even did not have resources before. They are living opulent lifestyles. They build mansions, some have built big hotels, and you know, EACC is unable even to explain to us where these resources have come from, and we think they have also been stolen. The other issue is also the fact that devolution has also not been supported fully by the national government. And I said this yesterday when I was issuing my bursaries in Siaya, that one of the hiccups that we need to address is the unitary financial system which we have, which does not reflect the two-tier system of government, does not reflect the thinking in the constitution and among Kenyans, that right now we need to devolve resources. The system is still intact. It is very strong.
It's very central.
And very central. Both at budget making process, at revenue sharing levels. So they actually give resources to counties the way they want. They do not want to measure resources vis-a-vis the services that have been devolved.
Now, you represent Alego Songa in the National Assembly. Now, Alego Songa is in Siaya. It is where the seat of the county government of Siaya is in Alego Songa constituency.
Yes.
Would you say that, because the main question people are asking is whether or not devolution has worked. 5 years on, and Citizen TV commissioned a poll on Twitter yesterday asking the same question. It was on Monday special with Anki Guta. Because people are still voting, and a majority say no. A majority actually say devolution has not worked. Is it simply perception? Is it that we do not understand what devolution means? Would you say that in Alego Songa, devolution has you've actually seen the fruits of devolution? Well,
we have seen. We can't deny we have seen, but of course, we could have done better if these bottlenecks were addressed. Wrangles in counties between governors and county assemblies is one of the biggest obstacles to the success of devolution. That is one. Two, as I've also said, the transfer of resources. You realize that governors do not actually get resources in time. So there are certain things that we could have done that would have facilitated counties to perform better. But I think that from where I sit and from my constituency perspective, we are seeing success of devolution in various areas. Yeah.
Okay.
Facilitation of transport services. Our roads have been opened. Early childhood education. We have a very good case in that area. We also have health areas. We are also doing very well. Yeah. So there are many things that have been done, and I think if this conference can be used to address the fundamental questions that we have been raising, I think devolution is success. But the other issue that I've also been saying is that maybe we also need to cut down the number of counties, because the counties are also many and they are also small, so they are unable to attract serious investments. Can you imagine Siaya? The population is very small, and we have been unable to attract.
Are you suggesting that probably Siaya County should be done away with?
No. I'm using Siaya as an example, and this is the same. Even if you go to other counties, there are even smaller counties. So my view is that, and you've seen even in our region, counties are trying to conglomerate, and they're saying that we want to form a Nyanza regional block. They are doing that because
Isn't that going back to the same provinces that we used to have?
Well, maybe it would even be better if they go that direction, because you see, they've realized that they don't have a capacity to do certain projects themselves. That's why they're trying to talk to their friends, their friendly neighbors. Like they want to open a regional bank, which each county cannot do. So in that direction, I always think that maybe we need to just cut down the number of counties so that we can have maybe 8 big counties.
Yes.
So that they can be able to attract serious development
projects. It is a radical suggestion, but one that definitely people are talking about. And one of those counties that people are saying should probably be done away with as a county run by a governor is Nairobi. There are quite a number of issues. Yesterday's headlines were very critical of the Governor Mike Sonko and his progress in Nairobi. I can see a similar headline, and I'm believing that's a follow-up from there. State of service delivery criticized as county officials say they're doing the best for Nairobians. That's on page 2 of the Daily Nation. But there are those who feel that Nairobi, being the capital city, is too big to be run as a county by one governor, that probably this should be the job of a government department or a ministry. I
disagree with that proposal, and I think there's a bill that was presented in Parliament which was withdrawn because we were against it. I think Nairobi needs to be retained as a county, but we need to appeal to Nairobians to consider electing better people who can plan, people with the track record. This is a city. We need somebody who can be able to organize it. So I think what we are seeing in Nairobi is basically ineptitude, weak leadership by the senator, by Sonko. Otherwise, Nairobi needs to be retained as a governor, as a county, so that it can deliver. But I think also Kenyans have not been doing a service to themselves. The kind of people that Kenyans have been putting into office, especially at the gubernatorial position, also is an issue. Yes. And I think we have weak leadership at counties, yes, which we need to address. I think maybe we need to educate Kenyans more about the role of governors in transformation and in effecting devolution. Yeah. So it's also coming up very strongly that we have some governors who are inept, who are unable to to deliver. They cannot think about the strategies, the programs they want to roll out, and how they can transform their counties.
Do you, for example, think that governors who've actually gotten into a second term have done a better job? For example, Siaya, Colonel Rasanga is on his second term. Do you think he has a better advantage as opposed to Governor Mike Sonko in Nairobi, who's just starting out?
Yes. He has better advantage because, one, he is not bogged down by politics right now, because he's not looking to please anybody, to please certain sectors of the county. What he's focused on now is service delivery, and he has to do it right. So people serving their second terms, I think, are a better placed to leave serious legacies than people who are coming in. Because you see, like, you have to balance politics. Because whatever action you do, you want to look at it in respect to 2022 politics, whether it will give you votes or not. So I think people in second term, government in second term, are better placed to leave serious legacies than the ones in first term.
But a lot has been said, especially about Governor Professor Kivuva Kibwana and what he has done in Makueni. And yes, he's one of those who is in his second term.
Yes.
There are quite a number of governors who are running their second terms right now, but have not done as well.
Makueni is a different case, because you remember how they began. He's one of those governors who got it right from the word go. And at one point, when he could not move, when his county assembly tried to emasculate him, he even proposed that the county should be dissolved because he got it right. It took time, but ultimately he got it right. And I also think he's also one of those governors who are highly independent and does not suffer from political influences. He was even elected in a region where the dominant party the candidate did not succeed. So Kibwana is very strong. I was actually even reading his reproachments to Deputy President.
And we'll get to that because that's a whole discussion.
So what I wanted to say is that I think Kibwana is a typical case of those people, governors we need to talk to so that they can. Are
you saying that these other governors who are probably in their second terms have not performed as well, have been bogged down by politics?
Yes, politics has contributed substantially to governors' performance. Local politics, county wrangles in county assemblies. Because I think what Kibwana did is that he decided to face the county assemblies head-on, which most governors have not been able to do. I think most governors have been trying to please the county assembly so that they can be able to move on. In the process, I think they have not been able to deliver. So I think the approach that I've told my governor, because my governor has serious issues with the county assembly. The county assemblies have become a den of corruption, where they would like to implement even big projects. You find that in a financial year, a third of the development budget is going to go to county assemblies. They want to build.
For what purpose?
They want to build things. So I think
as the county assembly, instead of focusing on the legislative.
So right now we have a disagreement on where the county assembly wants to build county assembly headquarters, which really that we don't need because they have their own assembly. The governor says that those resources we want to use them to fund NHIF for the Siaya County residents. So we have those conversations. But what I think we need to do is that I've told the governor, you must be firm. Please insist that you must roll out your programs for the benefit of your legacy.
Well, of course, the money issue comes into play, and yes, there's a lot of discussion with regard to how monies are released from Treasury to the counties. But there's also the issue of the capacity of these counties to actually get that money and spend it well. Because we're talking about billions of shillings. If you look at the model in Makueni, even the amount they've spent even on healthcare is not such a big amount with regard to the amount that we're talking about. Nairobi, 15 billion, other counties 10 billion and more, because we're talking about 160 million shillings probably, and it has worked. So yes, counties are complaining about the money, but what are they doing with that which they receive? I think
it also it depends on the population in the counties. I don't think Makueni is a large county in terms of population, so if the way they approach healthcare is working. But we must also insist that we need to find a way of rolling out resources to counties. And as I said, the financial system is unitary. It does not recognize the resources that the services that needs to be performed in the counties. So you find in a budget this year, last financial year, we had a budget of around 1.6 billion. That 1.6 billion is the amount projected to be collected in revenue, GDP. But you find that only 300 billion is going to counties, which has in which around 4 key functions of Jubilee as a government. The 4 pillars, 3 of them are to be met by the counties. So if you are going to meet your pillars through counties, then you're only transferring 300 billion and you're collecting 1.6 billion. Don't you think there's some mismatch there? So I think the issue basically is that, one, we are not sure how the government is arriving at the position that now we need to give counties 300 billion as opposed to 1 billion, as opposed to 300 million, yes, as opposed to even 1 trillion. Yeah, so that the national government retains 300 billion. So yeah, those are things we need to do. And 2, I don't think the government is really engaged in public participation. You know, the Constitution requires governments to engage in public participation. Even at national level, we basically pass a budget without public participation, because you cannot convince me that the Treasury can undertake public participation. They cannot. Public participation must be done by Parliament. So the Parliament really, and I've been advocating for a reversal in the budgeting process, and also basically overhauling the financial system that we are using right now, so that it can reflect the constitutional expectations. It can meet even a minimum constitutional expectations of public participation, and also to ensure that we really budget for things that Kenyans want. Have you not heard that Kenyans are calling us and asking us, why didn't you put money in this one? Because we did not actually look at their interest. So we have this unitary system of government is not helping the revolution. Okay. Yeah.
And of course, there's this issue about, and you mentioned the Big Four agenda, yes. The 4 pillars of the Jubilee administration's agenda. There's also an argument, and there are those who are for it and there are those who are against it. The fact that COG, the Council of Governors, appears to be aligning its development goals with the Jubilee goals as well. We've seen quite a number of governors, even from NASA, troop into State House to try and actually say, because we saw even Governor Ngilu in State House, and this is not a Jubilee governor, this is a NASA governor, saying, yes, we will work with the president towards this Big Four agenda. Do you think there's a risk there, if at all governors allow themselves to go by what the central government wants done?
I think the governors have thrown into the towel, and they are still thinking that they are subjects of national government, which they really should not. They should just roll out their own programs in a way that enables their counties to deliver. But I've seen some governors, behaving like, their success will depend on what State House does, which I think is not right. Yeah. So
but don't you think there's an advantage that if at all you align, as a governor, you align your development goals and agenda to the one of central government, that probably even getting assistance from the national government will be much easier?
You should not get assistance. Actually, national government is supposed to deliver resources to counties so that they can be independent and perform. The governors are not supposed to be going to beg for resources. And I think this is really a demonstration that we have weak governors. We have governors who cannot stand on their own and be able to think of how they can be able to run their counties.
Okay. And then as we continue this conversation, Dan Manzo MP Makueni has finally arrived in studio. Karibu sana. I'm sure the rain must have delayed you. There must be quite some traffic on city roads this morning.
Yes.
But you've just caught us as we continue discussing this Devolution Conference, the progress made in Devolution 5 years on. We've made mention of Makueni quite a number of times, and we're feeling it was a bit unfair that you are not here as MP for Makueni.
Yes.
Because yes, your governor has been cited as probably one of the best performing, if not the best, because of 1 or 2, 3 reasons. Yes. But we are not seeing that kind of success being replicated elsewhere. Yes, the governors with probably even more resources, working for fewer people. Yes. Yet they have not been able to do that. Governors were on their second terms as well, the same as Professor Kivutha Kibwana, still not able to actually replicate that kind of success in their counties. What is it? What is the difference? And I think I've asked you this before. How different is the Makueni model?
Yes, first I want to say that my professor, Governor Kivutha Kibwana, is keen on what he's doing. He took a lot of time in his first term to plan and to lay, a very strong foundation for the people of Makueni. There has been a lot of challenges. It's not been easy for him. And you can see he started, in Makueni we planted a lot of fruits. We've got mangoes, we've got oranges. So he started with a project whereby we can be able to process fruits, and that has helped a lot of farmers. He has improved the milk processing in Kikima, Boni constituency, where there is a lot of dairy, keeping, and these sort of industries are working well, and he's been very careful on corruption, such that even if a county officer is trying to be corrupt or to take advantage, he knows that the day the professor will catch up with him, that will be the day. So he's been working on corruption, and he's working on systems which can work even in future, and even future governors will be able to lay their basis on that. We do a lot of agriculture. We had worked on the roads in the constituencies in Makueni, although now the rain situation is really heavy, and most of the roads have been washed away. But I'm sure we'll be coming up with a program for emergency to make sure that we repair these roads. And we're also working on Thwake Dam, which is in Makueni constituency, and we are working together with him. There is a stadium being constructed at Water by the government, and there are roads which we've been lobbying and pushing so that can be tarmacked, bridges made. The river Athi divides us with the Kitui County, and over 200 kilometers, people cannot cross to the counties, and we've been working as a team. The Professor Kibwana has been working with the senator, been working with the MPs, and we've been working with the MCS. Even our campaign strategy was joined, and it made it a little easier. We did not bruise each other unnecessarily. He's very keen to build bridges. He's keen to build peace within Makueni people, even former candidates. And devolution is a reality now in the country, though it's not worked perfectly. There is division of revenue, which is a bill which is executed, and therefore the counties have their share of money and the national government has a share of money. But it works better when the national government is working with the county government, and when the teams there, the national team, which are the MPs and the senator, works with the county team, the MCS and the governor.
But how was that synergy achieved? Because yes, it was out in the public that probably Professor Kivutha Kibwana had the biggest run-in with his MCAs, and when Atandi here mentioned that MCAs and county assemblies have been the biggest impediment to progress in counties, especially curtailing the powers of governors, ensuring that governors spending too much time politicking with the MCAs. How did he manage to actually turn that around? Because probably he had the biggest problem with MCAs that got to the national level, even at the risk of actually having Makueni County dissolved.
Yes, and I want to say that there was an attempt to impeach him. There was the dissolution of the assembly was realized, and upon a team being taken there, and the president stopped it. But you'll find that the MCAs then were checking the government systems, although they had to negotiate a lot on budget and many other things, and they were accused of demanding bribes from him. You realize that they checked. The county assembly then played its role to check the county government, and it's out of those challenges the professor worked harder to make sure some of the issues be raised have been covered. If there was an issue about the fruit processing plant in Kalamba, which is in Makueni constituency, and for every complaint raised by the then MCA there, they will make sure that they have worked hard. By the time his ministers appear before the county committees, they have a proper report. And I believe those challenges were part of what has made it better, such that the county assembly must play its role to check the county government. But it is also good when there is a respectable relationship. So out of those bruisey battles, at least you will be able to see a few things working here and there. And you can also see the Governor Charity Ngilu has also been rated very well in Kitui. She came up with initiatives.
Despite being on her first term.
Yes, the biggest problem in Ukambani is rainfall. Suddenly right now there is a lot of rain, and what she did during the dry seasons then and the short rains then, they planted a lot of dengue. There was a dengue revolution, which we are also doing in Makueni, and those plants which are drought resistant, and that will really serve the people, give the people food, because when you don't have food, then you can't develop, because most of your budget then will be of development will go into feeding the people first.
Talking about relationships, because you've talked a lot about how governors relate to their MCAs, the senators, and the members of the National Assembly. There are very interesting photos coming from Kakamega, and this one is on the front page of the Standard, where yesterday there was a football match between the governors and the senators. Of course, the senators beat the governors 5-0, but still went on to lose to other people. But this time round, and a lot was said about the Senate and the senators and how they treated governors during the first period of devolution. But it appears to be changing now that you're seeing even senators attending the Devolution Conference. I happened to attend a Devolution Conference last year, and the number of senators there, actually senators boycotted that conference. Do you think that this time things are changing? That senators are more welcoming to what the governors are doing?
Yeah, I think it's true. In the last parliament, I think a lot of people who went into the Senate realized that they did a mistake. They should have actually gone for the governor's position. And you realize that even when governors appeared before Senate, they're appearing before their opponents. Take, for example, Kisumu. Nyong'o already declared interest to become the governor. Yes, he was a chairperson of PSC of the Senate. And many other senators, you realize most of them went to run for the governorship positions. So I think my opinion is that most of these senators wanted to run for governor, and they were actually undermining governors, in my view, in my honest view. That's why there was this problem. But I think right now, I have not had any senator wanting to go for governor.
This time around, they appear...
I have not seen that. That has not come out prominently, and I think that working relationship is good. And also, I think because of the Senate Speaker, who is a former governor. So I think maybe he's trying to use his experiences to help devolution succeed. So I think I'm happy. But I wanted to say something about the experiences of last regime, last parliament, and vis-a-vis the actions of county assemblies in undermining the success of devolution. And I wanted to say that my colleague is being politically correct. There's county assemblies, especially in the Makueni case, the county assemblies were basically corrupt. Because if you look at the things they wanted Kibwana to do for them, like they wanted Kibwana to give them humongous allowances, they wanted to be bought for cars.
Taken for benchmarking.
Yes. And I think Kibwana just became steadfast and strong and firm and said, no, I understand why devolution was brought, why we fought for it, and it has to work this way. So I think we really cannot sugarcoat some of these county assemblies. These county assemblies they actually want to implement projects. Yeah, they want. I heard some people saying, we need to form project development teams here so that we can know who is getting these tenders. There are obvious those challenges, and I think from where I come from, the counties need county assemblies need to act in a better way.
The county assemblies have been a problem.
They have been a problem. They have been because you see, a governor has his own vision which he needs to roll out, and you see, a county assembly cannot say no, this vision is wrong. Don't do it this way. The governor is the one that has been elected to run the counties. They need to be allowed to implement their visions, and county assemblies cannot sit and just block the implementation of the vision. The way some county assemblies are doing.
Even as we continue this conversation, yes, we have live pictures from Kakamega. This is Kakamega High School, where the Devolution Conference is taking place. Those are live pictures of the hall where the event will be kicking off. This being the second day of the 5-day Devolution Conference that kicked off yesterday and continues up until Friday this week. That's at the Kakamega High School. Our reporter Francis Gashuri is there and will be updating us on what's happening, what they're discussing today with regard to devolution. Quite a number of issues coming up. Issues of money, of course, issues of relationships between governors and the central government. And interestingly, that could move us even to this big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ghosts pocket billions in state cash. Key sectors faced with funding leaks. There was, yesterday, the Public Service Commission appeared before the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee. That's the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee. And it emerged that, yes, there were government officers, about 66,000 of them, sent to the county level when we devolved the systems. They were intended to serve a purpose there, but after a while, most of those services they were working on were devolved as well. So we ended up with 66,000 idle government workers spread across all the counties, and they're costing the taxpayer about 10 billion shillings annually in salaries. Now, these are some of those loopholes and leakages that we're talking about. Do you think the government there is just trying to lay the burden on the county officers, because the PSC, and that's the Public Service Commission, is still wishing to recruit more Kenyans, because they're saying their workforce is aging, yet there are about 66,000 idlers earning money? Manzo.
Yes, I want to say that you remember the first time the counties were coming in, they were the former county council employees, and you went to marry these together with the new government employees and the structures being set up. Remember now, the county governments are full governments with the ministers, in quotes, the county executives, and they have their equivalent of PAs, and you know, you have directors, and then it goes on, and then you find where there is a chief, there is another county officer to, you know, even a village administrator. So, you know, and then you see also when a governor is been elected, you also want to please some of the people who are working with you. So some of them you hire them, and by the time we came up with the county service boards and all that, equivalent to Public Service Commission, which is there were already employees who are in, and there are so many others not accounted for, yet they are receiving a salary. So I think it's something which needs they have to go through now and find who is useful to the county, who is doing what sort of work is it, how can you align the two schemes to make sure that it is one scheme. What are you going to do with it? But the mistake was, before the county service boards were set up, the employment then was whoever is close to the governor or any other young person looking for a job in that in that scenario. And the governors wanted to please people. They just hired people. And in fact, one of the most hit counties for that purpose is Machakos County. I know Governor Kibwana tried to be as professional as it can get from a very early time, and try to put all the structures that can be. You know, he understood the new constitution very well as a person who was among the people who made it. So it became very easy for him to, you know, to begin putting the structures together. But it is a matter now the nation needs to address. Of course, a lot of young people are jobless. And now proper direction has to be given on that matter, so that when some retire, because people retire every day, natural attrition takes place, people get better jobs, and others, you know, passing on and that sort of thing. How do you then replace these jobs? And there can be a system whereby now you can be able to align, and the county governments are not overburdened with the salaries, but more of the monies go into development, because then we lose the purpose. Yes. Why we should have counties.
But the problem keeps recurring after every 5 years, especially if a new governor comes in. If at all it's a reward system, then every new governor will have to hire a new workforce. So then it becomes a problem.
I think we have to blame the Transition Authority for this mess, because if you look at the county budgets, wage bill is a serious issue, because there are so many staff that they inherited from the former county councils, and it's a crisis. I think if I were a governor, I would probably adopt this national government employees, because I think they are better trained. They can be able to help in fulfilling devolution challenges. Most of those staff who are inherited from the county councils, I think, have not been able to deliver. In Siaya, for instance, the revenue accounts department is entirely those who are inherited. Revenue people, they were inherited. So I think
from the central government.
From the county assemblies, from the county councils. Yeah, so you realize these are people really who are not dynamic. They have been unable to help counties take off. And I think what the governors failed to fire them because also of politics, local politics. You don't want to hire because it will affect your politics. So among other factors, I think we need to be firm, and governors need to identify resources rightfully. They need to get resources that can help them transform counties, just not hiring people for the sake of hiring. And I think at this juncture, especially for those governors who are serving their second terms, I've seen some have become very bold and courageous. I saw Homa Bay governor, firing about 400 people, you know, and I think that's the direction we need to go, so that we can get these resources that are not helping. You get the right people. And I think because we are currently on this question of national wage bill, which is ballooning at a bigger rate, higher rate, the PSC really they should not insist that they want to hire more people. If those people retire, then let's just look at the gaps that have been left. If there are no gaps, maybe some people could just do the same job these guys are leaving. Yet
the government is under pressure to actually create more jobs.
Yeah, so I disagree with them that they want this recruitment process, hiring to be opened for them to continue. That should not be the case. Let them have capacity to measure the resource gaps, and this will only fail where it is necessary, but it cannot be a blanket where you just want to fill positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, the Devolution Conference has taken quite some, has been given quite some coverage on the Standard, and I can see pages 2, 3, 4, 21, 22, 23, 26, 27, and 28. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages just covering devolution. Despite pitfalls, devolution has changed lives. Ward reps threaten to boycott assemblies of a bill. Why governors rarely take on the state these days. 5th Devolution Conference will not be a talk shop, says hosting governor. Ken Lusaka speaking. Governors demanding less state staff in counties. And on and on and on and on. And of course, we'll continue looking at that. But there is a very interesting, and this one now is in politics. It involves a governor, but a very interesting photo. It is on the Daily Nation, and it's good that Bonamanzo is finally here. And I'm sure you've seen this headline. On page 6 of the Daily Nation, Ruto Kibwana meeting sparks Wiper jitters. Professor Kivutha Kibwana, yes, he's the governor of Makueni, but he also doubles up as the chairman of Wiper Party. Yes, Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana's meeting with the Deputy President William Ruto just a day after he threatened to withdraw support for Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has led to speculation that he has abandoned Ukambani leader Kalonzo Musyoka. You are a very senior member of that party.
Yes.
And you come from Makueni.
Yes.
How do you read this version of the handshake?
I think Professor Kivutha Kibwana has clarified this. You remember when this meeting took place, is at a time the president was not in the country, and of course the deputy president is there, and he had several pending matters, and I am aware that even before there has been an effort, not only even by Professor Kibwana, but even by the MPs to seek solutions on the Thwake dam issue, which is a very serious issue. And Professor Kibwana has been our chair every time we were preparing for this dam, and we had several meetings. Remember, he intervened on the compensation, which is still pending. And without compensation, you know, under the law, you cannot start the dam. In fact, the budgets now has been pushed. I think we are going to discuss them this week. Part of you know that the budget is a tool of the executive. There is a road, Ukia Emali, which has been washed away by rivers. And this road, even during the campaign, the deputy president and the president came to a place called Matiliko, and they promised to start the tarmac immediately. But when it comes to its budgeting, you find there are challenges. I told you of a stadium, and you know the sports. The county sports were held in Makueni, ended this weekend, and we were hosting people, the rain situation, and all that. There were so many other emergencies, and there are many issues which any governor or any member of parliament can discuss with the executive. So we don't read much mischief in it. Of course, the former chairman of the party, remember there was Pogisho, then there was Musila, and now Professor Kivutha Kibwana is the acting chair of the party. Of course, Mutula Kilonzo is a vice. And those are two big seats in a party from one region. So definitely, by the time we do the delegates conference, and you know, this week we are also going to have a political party meeting towards the end of it. At the delegates conference, of course, we have to decide. One of them. Are
you looking to replace Professor Kivutha Kibwana?
One of them has to take another job, because you can't have the chairman and the vice from one region. I mean, you have to.
Is that the politics that he was talking about? Because he says that Wiper Party, and especially supporters of Mr. Musyoka, have been trying to undermine him and his Kitui counterpart, Charity Ngilu.
No, you remember there was a little issue with the MP from Mwingi Central between him and the Honorable Charity Ngilu, the governor. It was a little misunderstanding over some launch of a circle which had been launched before. Ordinarily, how we do this in Makueni when the governor is visiting, let's say, a Makueni region or there's a function, he invites all of us. I'm always aware. And I think maybe that lack of sharing of information may have caused a little discomfort in Kitui, but that is over. In the case of Makueni, the governor has said 2 MCAs nominated. Of course, as far as I know, these MCAs have been the best friends of the governor. They are the ones who supported him during the tough wars with MCAs in his first term. So I know they are very close friends of his, and if he just pulls a handshake with them, there will be no problem. There must be the most probably they are feeling left out.
When I tell you, of course, your colleague is being very cagey with information and saying there's no politics, it's just about development.
The truth of the matter is that Governor Kibwana has ideological mismatch with the Wiper Party. You know, if you look at the history of Kibwana, this is first of all one person who fought for the second liberation, who fought for the new constitution. And even when in his first time, he was elected in a party that is not dominant in that region. And actually, I think Wiper adopted him. Wiper actually was pleading with him to join them because I think he was very strong and in efforts to consolidate the regional votes. I think it was Wiper did so much to please him to join. And I think at this juncture, I think Kibwana is tired of politics, of tribal politics. You know, Wiper, you know, plays politics of tribalism, of a political party that basically regional. Officials are from one community. And I think if I read it very well, and I know him because he's my friend, I was one of his youths in NCC. I know that he's tired of politics of ethnicity that Wiper is pursuing, and I think he's looking at broader picture of how he can be able to integrate himself in national realm, especially when after Wiper decided to jolt out of NASA in certain aspects, conglomerating into a regional outfit, ethnic outfit. So Kibwana is right, and I can assure you that Kibwana and Wiper is basically like water and oil. They are not going to mix. And very soon Kibwana is going to exit. And two, you know, he's not going to run for office again in that region. So it's maybe trying to cast his net wider, thinking of which political outfit is likely to win the next presidency. And all these second-term governors, that's what they are thinking. What role are they going to play post-2022? Yes. And I think Kibwana is positioning himself. I want my colleague here to know that Kibwana is not going to be in their party. Yes,
it will be said that Professor Kivutha Kibwana, even as you respond to Bwana Tandi, that he does not necessarily need Wiper at this point. Wiper and Kalonzo Musyoka look like they need the professor more.
I don't think that is the case, and unfortunately for my good friend here, you know, Wiper is not a regional party. We have MCAs from all over the country. We have MPs from the coastal region, from northeastern, from western, you know, and from Kisii. We've got quite, you know, people from other regions. Even the governor of Taita Taveta is a Wiper. So you can't really squeeze down the party. And I want to tell you, as a person who comes from Makueni, the first time Professor decided to join Wiper. First, he had been working with the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, even when he was in his Muungano party. And this selection was going to be difficult for him if he was not in Wiper. And therefore, in one of the huge meetings we had at Wote, the people were telling him, please, you better join Wiper or don't come here for seeking an elected post. And he is a person who reads what the people are thinking, and I can assure you, especially Makueni, where I come from, that is 100% Wiper zone. If you are not in Wiper, you will not survive at all. Even there is likelihood of getting an impeachment. And that's the scenario in Makueni. It's very strong, and goes to Kitui, goes to Machakos, and many other regions. And therefore, I don't think that is his target. Is more interested in building bigger networks for the benefit of Wiper.
Do you think he's still interested in that position as chairman of Wiper?
Well, I've just told you a scenario which is a reality. That other than the complaint about an MCA who is nominated, who is his friend, as far as I can remember, you know now Wiper has to make bigger links in the next election, and I think Kibwana means well for Wiper Party, even if he's not going to be the chair, because the chairman and the vice cannot come from one region.
But do you feel like Wiper is already getting ready to rid itself of Professor Kivutha Kibwana as its chairperson?
Yes. And I think Kibwana is always honest. I'm sure he has already communicated his intention to move away from Wiper, because ideally, you know, without NASA, you know, there was a mistake. You know, the reaction by these other parties within NASA when the Raila Amolo Odinga and the president undertook this golden handshake. You know, the reaction actually was misadvised. And if you ask me from where I sit, in NASA, I recognize Kalonzo Musyoka as the next heir apparent of the political support. But you see, I cannot think of voting somebody else outside. If Raila was not running for president, my next candidate as a NASA member of parliament, as a NASA party supporter, is Kalonzo. But you see, the way they began to react about this handshake actually is going to break, you know, the unity and the strength that his political future projected for him. So I think this is, what Kibwana is saying, that, you know, without NASA, you know, where are we heading to? And every person for himself. I think this is a reality which Maanzo, I think, doesn't want to talk about. But I can tell you for a fact that Kibwana is going to look for how to survive post 2022. Bwana
Kibwana, Professor Kibwana is probably one of the most applauded governors. And we've been talking about that, and everyone keeps talking about that. Do you think that Wiper Party in that region would be willing to let go of such a governor from its ranks?
First of all, he's a Wiper governor. Let's begin from there. And I want to say that, to agree with my friend, is reading things rightly but also wrongly. I can assure you the handshake was highly supported by the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. He had lobbied for talks between government and the opposition, because following the election, a lot of things were unclear. I want to agree with him. Professor Kivutha Kibwana is looking at the bigger picture. This looking at releasing Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka to all the Kenyans, so that at home there are people dealing with it. At times, you don't have to be the chairman of a party to be able to participate in many things. One of the realities is you have the chairman and the vice chairman from one region. You need to let one of the positions go. That's why you see I'm personally not running for this, because I also come from the same region. So I have to let others serve the people because I've served before. And I think that's Professor Kibwana is thinking of a bigger picture, a bigger image.
He's already agreed to
and he's supporting the handshake, and he's also supporting a united country. He's a peacemaker. I can assure you, he's been very keen to make sure that the people don't die out of political differences and political strain.
But Bwana Samatandi, it appears that we are all assuming that this move by Professor Kivutha Kibwana did it as a lone ranger, that it's just him and representing himself as a governor of Makueni, going to meet the deputy president. But he could also be representing Wiper Party.
I think Kibwana is one of those attractive governors. If I was the president of Kenya tomorrow, I would make Kivutha Kibwana one of my ministers because of this, the success that is shown in devolution. And I think Ruto, you know, is very aggressive, and you know, he's been going out of his way to try to get more political support outside his region, you know. And he has been reaching out, as you all know. He's been reaching out, and some people are falling into his strategies. And I think this meeting was well calculated. It is not just an ordinary meeting. This meeting is purely...
Do you think it has anything to do with Wiper?
It has nothing to do with Wiper. It has all to do... I've told you Professor has ideological differences with Wiper. Wiper is an ethnic outfit. And he wants to he's a nationalist. He's a person who fought for liberation. He looks at Kenya in a bigger perspective. But at this juncture, I think he wants to play a bigger role in national politics. He's trying to exit the regional ethnic politics he has done, which has served him well up to this stage. So I think he's just exiting, and he wants to play a bigger role outside Wiper.
That's a headline on page 6 of the Daily Nation. Ruto Kibwana meeting sparks Wiper jitters, but governor says the talk centered on development projects lined up for Makueni. Interesting. Before we wrap up our news review, there's a lot to be discussed at the Devolution Conference. Yes, I've seen a headline saying Governor Oparanya saying it's not just going to be a talk shop. They're not just going to talk. They need to implement this. But what else do you think they should really handle away from the money issue? Because yes, the money issue will come up. How they receive their money from the government, what time they receive the money. But surely devolution is beyond that.
Yeah.
Let's start with you.
I agree. One of the things that they need to come out with is strategies on how they are going to strengthen devolution. And strengthening devolution will involve so many things. It will also involve strengthening institutions of governance, like the EACC, so that EACC can rein into counties and fight corruption, not just talking and So we need them to come out with the solutions of how they are going to strengthen devolution in the area of fighting corruption and strengthening institutions, ensuring that the counties are effective, they are efficient, so that when they receive resources, then they can also be able to deliver. Then they also must think about how they are going to be self-sustainable in the future, because we don't want to run outfits that basically are branches of national government in terms of resources. So I think that's something that they need to be very firm about. How are they going to improve their revenue generation strategies? And lastly, one of the things that they must do is that they must come out with ways in which we can draw parallels between national government and county governments. You see those governors who are jumping into State House and saying that they want to implement national agenda, Jubilee agendas in their counties. Basically, they're just saying they don't have ideas, that they just want to sit there and cooperate with the national government and just do what they are doing and then claim credit. That's not what we want. We want them to have their own ideas, their own programs, which are distinct and which are not related to the national government projects. And lastly, as I've said, this is something that we must do as Parliament, that we must change the financial system of this country to reflect the realities of devolution. This is very fundamental. If it is not done, we are going to still have hiccups, because Treasury is very powerful. It controls resources going to counties, and they do not care whether the resources they are dispensing to counties match the services that have been devolved. So these are some of the things that we need to they need to come out clearly in order for devolution to succeed in the coming years.
For example, Manzo, do you agree with Bonatandi here that counties that are simply mirroring what the national government hopes to do, the Jubilee Big Four agenda, that probably they're doing it wrong? They should be independent in their thinking?
Yeah, under Schedule 4 of the Constitution, it's quite clear the role of national government is distinct from the role of county governments, although there are very many ties, there are shared functions. And I think the Big Four is for national government. Therefore, each county has its own outfits, depending on its needs and the resources available. First of all, revenue collection within the counties has been a challenge, and partly because of theft and the corruption, such that a lot of monies which will be put into good use, they end up in individuals' pockets who understand the county system's finances very well because of being previously in the county councils. So that has to be checked, because there are a lot of resources. Each county generates its own local resources, a lot of them. And there are certain resources which each county should now deal with the national government, like now the case of petroleum products. We have the case of coal in Kitui. We have the mines in Taita Taveta. There has to be, and even the game reserves. There has to be a way of sharing revenue, and we have a bill in Parliament where we are debating that, and I'm sure it will soon be law to be able to make sure that each county plays its part. But most important also, the releasing of the monies from the national treasury to the counties. At times there are delays. At times the counties have not accounted for what has happened. And in fact, I can assure you, Senate stated that this time round, when they summoned governors, only Professor Kivutha Kibwana showed up because he has nothing to hide. He came up with his budgets, everything to be cleared by Senate. The rest delayed or are still organizing themselves, and it means, or they have something to hide. And you know, governors should be able to be accountable to Kenyans, the resources which have gone to them. There should be, otherwise, if you have not used resources well, why should you be given more resources? If you have not utilized what you have already been given, why should Treasury give you money when you have an unclaimed money and you have development pending? So I think we need to generate income as a country first and foremost with our natural resources, and generate income at the counties. In case of Ukambani, we have sand, which is mismanaged to a great extent, and it's a very serious resource for construction in Nairobi and many other places. And each county has resources which can be very synonymous with it and which can be utilized so that you can generate income to supplement the budget we usually allocate to them.